Hi everyone, it's me, back again with a new digital collage set. Now this one is a little bit different to the ones I've done previously. Before I've created two different sizes, one for large journals and one for small journals, whereas this one, this new set, can actually be used for both, and I'll show you how in a second. Now the kit, this one is 3 pages, again 8.5 by 11, but if you're in the UK or anywhere that prints A4, when you print the 8.5 by 11 it does fit on an A4 too, because I use A4 to print. The only thing that happens is you lose a little bit of the writing off the bottom, but I might just fix that, you never know. So this is the kit as it is. So there's 3 pages. As normal, you have your composites that I've already put together so you can just cut out and you don't have to bother collaging. But for this one, I've separated these two because there's 2 lots of word blocks. Now one which has words of what I class as aspirational ones, so strength, determination, hope, ambition and aspiration itself. And then you've got the flip side to that. You've got struggle, hardship, debt, poverty and hunger. So things to rise above and get away from. So that is pretty much the composite. Now you can mix and match which of the little boys, now I have flipped the image, you might have noticed, which of the little boys you want to use for which set of word blocks. But as I always do, I always give you the individual bits as well to make up if you want to cut out and collage individually. So you have the 2 little boys, this time with the flat caps, which are hidden behind their little paper caps if you like. So you have the 2 little boys, you've got the 2 separate caps, you have the 2 butterflies to collage behind, and you have the individual word strips with the text backgrounds. So you can mix and match those however you want to. But what I've also done is I've included in this 2 what I call backing papers, 2 papers that will fit quite nicely. Now I like to tear my backing papers up and layer them so that even if that doesn't fit a large journal, I can space it out so that it does kind of fit. Now sometimes I go vertically, sometimes I go horizontally. You could, if you wanted to, also go diagonally if it's in the background. So there are some layered papers there. So these are dictionary pages that I've added some grunge borders, some opaque, some translucent butterflies over the top so you can still see it coming through. And I've also done like a harlequin pattern on this one. Now, this is how it compares. Now, originally, for the large journal, see, I've already gone ahead and cut all my little bits out. So for a large journal, you can literally lay these out however you want to. So I have butterflies that I've taken from the kit, so I'll just put those to one side. There's the word blocks, there's the 2 paper sellers, but you only have to use 1 if you want to, and then the 2 backing papers. Now depending on what you want to do, which one you want to use, you might want to use 1, you might want to use both. You could literally lay these out on the page however you want to. It's really down to you. You can play with the positioning on the page however you want to. You can drop the butterflies in if you want, or not use them at all. So that's how it would fit on a large size journal. So what about a small one? Well, this is the small journal, so I'll just move that to one side, bring the small journal in. This is my small dilutions journal. And I'll bring that butterfly paper in. Now you can see it does fit within the page, so you can cut it, you can tear it, and then you can, if you wanted to, you could layer the boys over the top, underneath. You can get a bit of dimension going because however you want to place them on the page. You might only want to use the one page. You might want to use both. You might want to use 2 of the same in case you just print it out twice. So you could pretty much do whatever you want to and get a very, very similar, same effect. And don't forget, you've still also got all the individual pieces as well. You've also got the individual blocks that you can use however you want to create your page. Now for me, I'm going to create a page using this lot with the large journal. And then what I'm going to do for a change is whatever's left over, if there's anything left over, I'm also going to make a card. So I'm actually going to make a card with whatever's left over. Or I might make a card from another set. So I might print off another set, I've already got that other set printed off. So I might actually just use these and create a card from these two. So it's multi-purpose. You can use them for journaling, or you might even be able to make them for scrapbooking, or use them for scrapbooking, but again, you might even be able to get or make a greetings card, an aspirational greetings card from this too. So first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to create my page. So let's get started on that. So I'm going to begin by using my matte medium from Mod Podge, and I'm going to tear up this piece of tissue paper from Paper Mania Do Crafts, and I'm just going to rip it into fragments and then stick it down using the Mod Podge all over the page. If you don't have any tissue paper and you wanted to get the same effect, you could just do the same thing by using a text or some form of graphic stamp and stamp all over the background with an archival ink. That way you get the similar sort of effect without any tissue paper. The reason I'm using fragments is because the piece of this tissue paper that I had left wasn't big enough just to stick straight down onto the paper. It didn't cover it, so the easiest way to use it up is to tear it into small strips and then just place it around so that it covers the majority of the page. Because I know what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my collage kit, which basically means I'm going to be using the collage kit to cover up the rest of the blank areas, it doesn't really matter. So now we're all dry, I'm going to use Vintage Photo Distress Paint, and I'm just going to dab some of the paint around the page and then grab a baby wipe and then just blend that all together with the baby wipe and then try and create some form of kind of leathery, kind of mottled effect just by dabbing the baby wipe onto the paint while it's still wet. Now that's dry, I'm going to take my backing pieces and just tear those into strips just to expand the size of the paper a little bit. And I'm not being too careful about how it's been ripped, and I'm just going to stick those down with the Mod Podge across the page. And I'm happy with it, and then I'm going to bring out the heat gun and then give it a real good dry off before I bring in the second sheet of paper and do exactly the same thing again. Now that it's dry, I'm going to bring in that baby wipe that had the brown paint on it and just go over the backing paper pieces just to give them a little bit of a staining. And I'm just rubbing the paint on and then wiping it back off again just to alter the colour so it blends more into the background. And then I can do exactly the same thing for the other backing paper piece with the butterflies on. So I've followed the same process with that other piece, including wiping the baby wipe across the top, and now I've just taken out some Distress Stain. Now this is the bronze, and I'm just going to go around the edge and just add some dabs of that metallic paint around the page borders. Now it's all dry, I can start to add and work out where I'm going to put my main collage items. So I play about with the positioning on the page for a little while and then finally decide exactly where I'm going to do it, and then I bring out the Mod Podge again and then stick it down in place where I want it. Now that it's all nice and dry, I'm going to bring out the Potting Soil archival ink, an ink blending tool and the texture stencil from Indigo Blue. I'm just going to apply some of the stenciling onto the page just to break up some of the areas that you can see, just to add in a little bit more depth and dimension with that stencil. I also wanted to bring back that Harlequin sort of pattern in the background, so I brought out my Harlequin stencil from TCW and the jet black archival ink, and then I'm just going to add some of those Harlequins to the right hand side of the page just to kind of balance it off a little bit and just to add a bit more depth with the darker, blacker ink. When I'm happy that all of the ink, including the brown ink and the black ink, is all nice and dry, I'm ready to continue on adding in my collage items. And here I'm using one of the butterflies from the collage set and the single word determination that I'm going to place on top of the butterfly. So this signifies for me that although you have struggle and hardship, your determination will help you get off the ground. And of course, that is ambition too. So those are my main focal points. I'm just going to dry them off with the heat tool, and then once it's dry I'm going to bring out my Stabilo black all pencil. So I'm just going around the areas of my collaged items where I want to add a little bit more depth and dimension and a little bit more shadow. I also want to add some under his feet, so you can just see I've done that there, just to make sure that it does look as though he is actually grounded and not floating in midair. And as with all watercolour effects, it always looks darker while it's still wet, but when it dries, it does actually fade back and is a lot lighter. So now that I'm happy, a quick heat blast and then we're on to the next step. So at this point, as far as I was concerned, I was done. The page was finished and all I had to do was just to sign and date it and then do what I normally do and then fade off into the ether, like so. And then I changed my mind and came back in again. What was missing was some black splatters. So out came the black gesso and I grabbed my fantail brush and just mixed a little bit of the black gesso with some water on my craft mat and then just mixed it up, made it a little bit runny and then added some black splatters. And that's exactly what was missing. I'm now happy. I'm now going to call this page finished. And as I said earlier, if you've got anything left over, you can always turn that into a little greeting card if you wanted to. Now this is just a simple 4x6 top folding card. So all I've done is just used some of the leftovers. I've used a little bit of the spare backing paper from one that I printed out previously, and I've just stuck down the remaining figure and one of those individual word blocks, and on the inside I just used the other butterfly that I'd left over, and again just another one of those little word blocks, and I've created a nice little greeting card out of the same set. So very versatile, so I'd love to see what you're going to do with it. So once again, if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up so YouTube know that you want to see more from me, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me, and I will catch you all again real soon. Bye for now.